That helps us out. So thank you so very much. So
You okay, Clint?
Nope, but more coffee.
Just wondering.
Well, we are back for another round, another bantery round to start off of the RV Small Talk podcast. And this week we have our special guest who lived through the ice storm of 2021. You just crashed through that ice storm. This is
literally
Kate Dunbar.
and figuratively.
She didn't skate through it? You didn't ice skate through it?
Did you see my knee?
Did you pirouette? What did you...
Yeah.
I fell on the ice and messed my knee
That's
up.
not skating.
No, that was crashing or falling with style.
Falling with style.
You did it gracefully.
Yes.
So you recently moved to an old farmhouse.
Yes.
And it was built in the time when we didn't have these once in a generation ice storms.
She was built in 1903 and then went through a full remodel about 5 years ago by the owners that we purchased it from. But there were still a little fun times to be had with her.
She wasn't ready, was she?
She was not. Girl's facelift was not complete.
Oh, no. All right. So just the rundown, just the checklist. Did you lose electricity?
Yes.
And how? Like days, right?
9 days.
Oh, did you lose water?
Yes.
Did you have gas, natural gas or propane coming into the house?
No.
What else am I missing? Because there was it was hard.
Do you have a teenage boy in the house?
I have a teenage boy. I have twins that are 13, boy
Who couldn't
and
take a
girl,
shower
for 9 days.
Do you have your grand dog still?
No, I do not have the Newfoundland. So, which I was really bummed about because I'm like, dang, that dog could have laid on us and kept us
Totally. Snuggle buddy.
right. I mean, at our home, the first night when the ice hit, we had 2.5 inches of ice. And
The first night.
And then when the snow hit, we had 9 inches of ice. And then the next ice storm that came in, we got an additional 3 inches of ice on top of that. I have 100-year-old oak trees that are just popping and falling all over, like barely missing the roof of my home. One hit a window, but the window didn't shatter.
Wow.
It was a little interesting and intense, but everybody in the house, my children and myself, totally safe, totally fed. They learned to do boondocking in our home. So they are now experienced.
Now it's an adventure. Now you are a certified chef. So I imagine you found a way to get everyone fed. The rest of us at the table, we are certified eaters. I can show you my card.
A lot of the tools that I know professionally came into play, but one that was a shocker that helped my neighbors was the food temperature of their frozen food thawing.
Yes.
And that problem, that window, what's the danger zone? What do we need to do? So they were all like texting me.
Yeah.
My freezer's done. My food's thawing. What do I need to do? Get it outside in the snow and ice. Like get it. Like we have a freezer outside.
Absolutely.
It is 2 degrees outside. Put it out in the snow. You'll be fine. Take everything out of your refrigerators and freezers. Bury them.
We went straight to ice chests, either outside or in the garage because the garage was frozen as well. So what did everyone actually end up consuming in all this? Anything?
We ate really well at my house because we found things in our freezer that we had no idea was there. And we're like,
or what it was old.
You also had gas.
So we had gas. That's right. We had power.
So you could cook things.
So we could cook things. And so it was, we kind of rummaged through the bottom. And when you don't have much of anything else to do, you spend a lot of time thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner.
That's true.
Yes, you do. And also, are we going to have the daylight to prepare that meal? Because if you hold off a little bit and then you're going by candlelight to try and do it, or a headlamp, you have to really think ahead of time, schedule something. And in my home, my kids were not allowed to grab any food without checking with me first.
Right. Because
it was like I had the master list of what we've got and I needed to make it stretch. So, we did a ton of quesadillas because I had pulled pork in the freezer. I had roast chicken in the freezer, like all of these cooked meats already, because usually I'll take it camping. Like that's camping night, one dinner, because you don't want to cook. You just want to put something together. So we were doing quesadillas. I was grilling meat and things like that. I mean, we were eating steaks. We were eating salmon, but it was just what I had.
Sure.
Oh, that sounds so
freezer.
yummy. That was not what we had, by the way.
Well, but you know what? I couldn't have my children's favorite food. I couldn't make rice and I couldn't make pasta because the water that I had filled in all of the bathtubs, all of the stock pots, all of everything, that was specifically for drinking. There was no way I was going to cook something that used water.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So like you have to completely mind shift. And my children are pasta and rice eaters. So they were depressed for 9 days. They didn't get anything.
They didn't get any rice, just steak.
No, just steak and a baked potato. Like, here you go, wrap the potato in foil, throw it in the bottom with the charcoal. It worked.
Lindsay, how about your kids? How'd y'all do? What did you eat?
Cliff Bars and grapes.
Yeah.
That's literally all we ate for 3 days.
Yeah, but your kids like grapes, right?
And Cliff Bars.
Well,
they were in heaven.
Golden.
Because the bars, I buy like the big box at Costco that's like 36 Cliff Bars or whatever. And they're like treats for my kids.
Sure.
They're treats like, oh, you did awesome. You can have a Cliff Bar,
right.
Or I'm really tired and I don't really want to cook, so have a Cliff Bar.
Been there.
We all have.
I don't.
We all
they
have.
don't really eat them very often. So I had most of them left, and they're in a bowl that sits at the very top of the pantry that they can't reach. And so, I mean, I'm looking around, and all of my appliances are electric, not gas. So I had nothing, and of course, I needed to go to the store. So I mean, I had some yogurt that I gave to them on day one because I was like, well, I don't want it to go bad. And then other than that, I had grapes and we had Cliff Bars.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think it was it was the last night we were there. We all crawled into my bed to all sleep in the same bed. And I brought the grapes, the bag up and laid in bed, and we all ate grapes in bed together, which is such a huge deal because my kids are not allowed to sleep in my bed with me, and no one is allowed to put any type of food on my bed or in my bedroom. That's a no.
Yeah.
So we're all sitting there in the dark with flashlights, eating
kids.
grapes
They
in
knew
the bed.
end was coming.
And they just thought, they thought they had no, I mean, they were just like,
That sounds pitiful.
what a treat. The power's out. This is the best thing that's ever happened to us.
They're
We
looking
get
for
to
the
eat
next time.
grapes in bed.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, eating was, they're 3 and 5. They don't care.
Yeah.
They'll eat
Yeah,
whatever.
the kids, they did well. I love how naive we were on day one, even
Right.
into day
We
two.
were so naive.
So
Day one and day two were it'll
oh,
come
shucks.
back.
day 3 through 9,
This isn't fun anymore.
this isn't fun. How cold did your house get?
That last night that we stayed was the night that it got the coldest. It was -2 or whatever.
Right.
My house only got to mid 40s.
Ours was 39 degrees for 18 hours. Old farmhouse.
Yeah.
Still needs a facelift.
Yeah. And then it was that night it got that cold.
Yeah.
But then when the sun came up that day after, I was like, oh, it's kind of nice. So when we left, it was
It was low 50s.
Yeah.
Which is tolerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tolerable.
Yeah.
But the fourth day of Cliff Bars, I don't know. At some point, isn't that going to mess with you?
My kids
Yeah.
are already on we don't need to see another quesadilla for a long time. They're like, no, Mom, let's do something different.
I'll trade you. I got some Cliff Bars.
Hey, they might like those.
How do they feel about Cliff Bars?
But it was at one point, my kids, they don't eat candy. So that Halloween candy, that Christmas candy, it stays in a huge Ziploc bag for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, they just and I was at one point when it was really bad and I knew this is going sideways. This is not,
Right.
and I'm not prepared enough. And I just looked at them all right, if you need a free food, something because you're not feeling good, because you're just down in the dumps or whatever, I'm I'll let you just get into your candy bags. And they were like, What?
That's what it's for. That's exactly what candy is.
It's bargain with yourself. There's peanut in the Reese's, right?
Right?
Peanut butter?
There's,
Okay.
there's protein. There's protein. There's some
go.
sugar. Get your blood sugar up, but it was like there was a lot of the things that I normally would not let them have. It would be like a reward system. They did something. Okay, well, you earned it. And it was just like, forget it. You woke up this morning and you're not screaming at me. Have some candy.
Like Cliff Bars and grapes in bed. I feel
Right,
like
yeah,
when you
there you
have
go.
kids, it's all just like,
the moment.
yeah, it's I no longer care. Just whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, when you start feeding yourself and you realize this is the long haul, the highlight of your day becomes food, right?
Yes.
So that is kind of like the big thing.
Yeah.
Is what to eat next. So how did the dishes go? Because nobody wanted to use any extra water. So
I have a good supply of paper plates because I teach. So whenever I teach and serve food to students, I always, have paper plates. So I went and I was raiding all of my teaching equipment, all of that kind of stuff and pulling all those out. So, I'm still terrified to wash a dish. It's like there's that, I don't want to waste any water because we have empty water tanks all over Texas right now. So it's like, no, we're going to stay with the paper
Yeah,
for a while
it's
longer.
all
I'm
essential.
not-
Yeah.
Like we can't do our laundry, in my area where my water district is, we're still not allowed to do it. But so paper's going to stay on for probably another week or so, just because it makes me feel good that I'm conserving. So hopefully the tanks fill more.
Yeah. Yeah. We also used paper plates and whatnot for the same reasons. We wash some of the cooking dishes or whatever. We definitely wash, but we used melted snow for that and soap. That's what soap does. So you just lower your expectations a little bit, and you're fine.
It's not about, oh my gosh, what kind of a meal am I making? A complete meal. Because no one that I know was making a complete dinner, a
Cliff
complete
Bars.
lunch, a complete breakfast. Like
I'm pretty sure I've never made a complete meal. Like in 2 or 3 days put together, I haven't made a complete meal.
But it's like, it's like, okay, so you didn't have a salad or you didn't have bread and you didn't have a protein and you didn't have a starch and you didn't have another vegetable. Like those were not happening. And it was almost...
we don't know what all that is. We know you know what that is, but we just eat.
At one point, though, it was too much food because... it was really cold. We weren't eating a lot. So it was like, okay, wait, I can start scaling down the meal. So I've got an additional meal. Oh, okay, good. Okay, well, I can take the 2 meals from like the leftovers and I can combine those together.
Yep.
Okay, hey, there's a 3rd meal. All right. So we didn't have to try and thaw stuff. Like it created a pattern that worked for me probably by day 3. It was like, okay, I've got this system. I know what I'm doing and how I'm going to make it work.
Well, it's amazing how conservative we get on what we cook, what we save, the water that we use.
Yes.
It was really quite interesting. We don't have paper plates at my house because, I don't even like having paper towels. They're just throwaway stuff. Whereas, if you don't have that much to clean up, you just use less resources and everything's reusable. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing to conserve? So I didn't have paper plates, but we ate pretty well because we ate whatever was in the bottom of the freezer. So we just had mounds of dishes, mounds. And we just piled them up, stacked them, let them just get bigger. And then when it came to cook a meal, when we all said, we don't have a single pan to cook in anymore, we have to do something. We got enough melted snow, and it took about 1.5 gallons to wash literally almost every dish in my house.
It's amazing when you do that. And a trick that a lot of us in the food industry and the catering side, whenever we're on a job site that doesn't have water, we triple fold aluminum foil and stick it in the pans. And we cook with that. So when we're done, you can just crumple up the aluminum foil and throw it away. So that didn't kick in my brain until day 3. And then it was like, I saw the foil and I went, oh, girl, you've been doing this for years. Like, you know how to do it. So even all the cast iron pans were getting lined in aluminum foil. Everything was getting, if I was making scrambled eggs, it got lined in aluminum foil too. So I didn't have to wash something.
You can make scrambled eggs on aluminum foil.
If you're really careful in the bowl and you're not using a fork, if you're using a whisk, you can.
Yeah. You can
Cool.
make
Yeah.
a fried egg on a sidewalk.
That would have
In Texas
so
during the
saved
summer.
us.
You can bake
Yeah.
cookies in your car.
You can cook a pot roast
know
on
why
your
you would bake
transmission. I mean, like we can keep going.
Engine soup.
You should never bake cookies. You should eat the raw dough with the eggs and everything.
Oh,
I'm a gambler. I do it all the time.
And she's a
I don't know
chef.
anybody
Live
who's ever
dangerously.
gotten sick from eating raw cookie
It's
dough.
you know what it is? It's the flour. It's
Really?
not
It's not the egg?
necessarily because
Flour?
most of the eggs are pasteurized. It's the flour. Yeah, that's what makes you sick.
Like raw flour makes you sick? So if I just ate like a spoonful of flour, I'd be sick?
You could be.
I could be.
You could be because there. I mean, think about it. When you're using flour, your baking temperature is high. So if there's any bacteria, spores, or anything, they actually are killed because of the heat. But if you're consuming raw, uncooked flour, and if there is a bacteria in it, that's how you get sick.
I'm not eating dandelions ever again.
Nope.
I don't know, but
So
I'm
there's
still
the food
eating raw
science side
cookie
of
dough.
it.
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
still
ma'am.
Bring it on.
Clint, what did you guys eat?
Well, we had a fair bit of canned goods, soups and chilies and things like that, and we had gas, so I could do that every night after dinner. No, so we were fine on that front. We did the same thing. We raided our freezer. I had ground meat. I had venison. I had trout from a trip to Colorado. So we managed, and the doorbell never rang, but the door did knock, and neighbors were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we ended up with all kinds of stuff just showing up at the door.
Yeah.
Wow. Neighbors bringing you food?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you share your stuff, they share their stuff. It's the craziest thing.
So where I live is out in like a farm community. It's in a horse community, and a lot of people have chickens out there. Well, the
Eggs,
chickens
eggs.
were totally laying. I mean, they
Yeah.
didn't stop, and so it was one of those who needs eggs. I can give you 4 today, because this is the
Yeah.
extras, and it would just go like house to house to house. Past the eggs. Someone had a really big vegetable garden. They knew everything was going to freeze, so they were like, "I'm harvesting everything
Yes.
right now before it's gone. Who needs these vegetables?" Someone had a goat, and it was at that point of it's a milking goat, and they went, "We can if you the kids, if they run out of milk for cereal or stuff, like
Yeah.
we've got, and here's an in, if you want it, you could, we can do this as best as we can." But
Absolutely.
it was amazing how that community where I live just automatically pulled together. And we've got firemen that live there too, and a couple constables. So they were on the watch of all of us who had downed trees, and they were like, "Don't worry, we've
Right.
got you. We'll bring out the cadets. Like we'll help you. Don't worry." But we had a lot of check-ins.
Absolutely.
It was so reassuring to have that neighbor
Right.
communication when a lot of people don't have that.
Sure. And yet again, I mean, and we'll definitely cover this later, but door to door, mouth to mouth communication was the only, not mouth to mouth. No.
Face to face.
Face to face. Face to face communication
So
With
you
your
have
wife
gas?
that's mouth to mouth.
was all that was working for a lot of the time. So
You're not recovering.
there was no asphyxiation. Never mind. I'm going to drink some coffee.
Cut, print, check the gate, moving on.
I'm the editor. There will be no cutting of this.
Oh, well, I'm glad that we all ate well and took care of each other.
We
made it through. And so what are you eating now? Did you like come out of this going, wow, I can't wait till I can eat or get?
No, I don't think I felt that way because we had decent stuff in the freezer.
Yeah, I
and
didn't
the
feel that
pantry.
way either.
I did
mean-
think, okay, I need to go fishing and hunting a little more this year.
I've held off going to the grocery store
Yep.
because I know that there's a lot of people who went through a lot of food.
Yeah.
I still have stuff, so I'm still holding back. I'm not going because I can get in my car again because
Right.
it's I can go to the grocery store, but it's I really don't want to see you can only get 2 loaves of bread. Sign. I don't want to see those signs because I want to go back into the grocery store when it's restocked,
Well, I have good
refilled,
news.
and let people who need it get it first. That's my thing.
Good news. I went by this morning and the truck apparently arrived, and I couldn't get to the shelves because there's too many employees stocking them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but that's how it was on Monday when I went Monday morning, just thinking it would be better. And those poor workers were stocking the shelves so fast, and there were just people just like waiting and then just grabbing everything, and it was ridiculous. So Hawk and my son and I played a game where he just like ran around HEB, and like everybody with a red shirt, we would just yell "thank you."
Yeah.
And we got so many like, "Oh, you're welcome, sweetie," and like super.
There were
the people in the bakery and the deli. You know, all the lights were off, but there was half a dozen people in there just running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to bake enough bread, trying to cut enough meat. And it was, I mean, I went to the store because Simone needs like special milk and special yogurt and stuff for school. So I had to just get a few things. I didn't get much because I was like, I'm not going to stand in line. I'm not going to do this craziness. There was no water. There was no eggs. The line to get eggs went all the way down to the frozen food section.
It's pretty crazy.
Like,
I mean,
I'm good.
And like the one thing that you just said, that you were going around saying thank you, that your kids were, we had a transformer catch on fire where flames were shooting out of this thing when they tried to bring the power back on, and it was across the street from my house. So we were watching it. Linemen are racing into they hit the brakes on the truck, and the truck slid and went into the ditch. Like they were just flying into here.
That's insane.
But all of the neighbors, all of us around there, it's freezing cold, but we were all out on our front porches. Thank you so much. Do you need some coffee? I can make you some sandwiches. I've got I can make you some hot tea. One was like, I've got some brownies. Give me a minute. Like,
Here's a milk goat.
Like, literally, like, here's a chicken. But
here's a chicken.
Here's a chicken. And the whole time they were just like, no, just please go inside. Like, we know you don't have power, and we're fine. Like, we're taken care of. We just want to take care of you guys. And we're like, no, we want to take care of you.
Yes.
You know, like, thank you for being here. So
Yeah. I live a half mile from the grocery store, so I went in just for something to do.
Because you could go.
And you go in, you say,
Clint.
well, if I can find this list. It's
like, where's Waldo now at the grocery store?
And you walk in, and there's nothing on the shelves. And you see the sign that says 2 loaves of bread, max, and all that. You're still coming out with the weirdest bread.
See, and I haven't gone. I'm like, I might, after I leave here, I just might go to the grocery store.
all I needed was 1 loaf of gluten-free bread. All gone.
Yeah, the gluten-free was definitely gone.
But there was tons of other breads, but no gluten-free bread.
Then the eggs were definitely gone, and then the entire wall of dairy was gone, except for goat milk. And I'll tell you what, I have no problem. My kids have no problem with goat milk.
It makes the best ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, goat's milk makes the creamiest ice cream in the world. It's so good.
So it's expensive, but goat milk, you can grow with it.
You're kidding.
I see what you did there.
Oh, no, Kate, no. We don't need 2 of them.
No.
All right. Well, I'm glad we all ate. I'm glad we all survived. I'm glad that they're baking more gluten-free bread to put on the shelves.
Amen.
So let's jump over to the things that we probably ought to have in our camping, in our RVs and our camping supplies that we ended up dragging out into our houses, in our actual lives, to keep us going in this time. So what did you have for camping that was a lifesaver, or what do you wish you had that would have made things better?
Any type of gas at all.
Well, let me tell you about no.
Chili. No, any type of propane grill.
Yeah.
And also a propane tank.
Yes.
But it has to be full. But yeah, like anything. Like I really wanted a cup of tea. That's all I wanted when it was really cold. And there was absolutely no way I was going to get it. No way.
Yeah.
I mean, like I found like a Bic lighter. So like if I like...
Your thumb will get really hot using one
Y'all
of those.
should have seen Kate's face just now. It was so pathetic. It's like, oh, honey. You know I would have done it too.
That was this face. Like, I could see you trying to heat a mug with a lighter.
But it's all I had. It's all I had because we don't have gas at my house, which I already don't like, but I can't do anything about that.
I can give you some tips on what you need to have.
I just want like a little Coleman grill. I know how to use it. it, and that way I can just, I don't know.
Yeah. So anything along those lines, the little camping stoves, fantastic. Or it's something along the lines of what backpackers carry, which is a really small fuel cell.
Yeah, they're called solo stoves.
Those things are great.
They really are good.
And they're so inexpensive.
Well, and
those little
that's
camp
a thing where
stoves are inexpensive.
You just put the pot on top of it.
Right. Or if you're smart, you can get sternos. And if you have sternos, you can position them like over. You can put them on the ground. It's best to use a sterno outside. Don't ever use it inside, especially in a catastrophe like this. Open a window, unfortunately, but take it outside. If you can put a bunch of rocks around it or bricks around it, put your sterno can there, and then you can put your pan, like throw a barbecue grill on it or another couple stones or whatever, so you can get your pan above it, and it will cook just like a gas stove. They're really inexpensive, and your lighter would come into use. It's a gel fuel that you just pop the top and then you light it, and you've got like 5 hours of heat in that little can.
We have an entire case in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing it.
We have a case of sterno here.
You could have just come over here and got some sterno.
If you
I could have come over here and gotten my camper, which has propane in it. That's what everybody kept saying. Why didn't
How many of us got told that? Oh, just get in your camper.
Okay.
No.
Not the same.
No.
So why can't you just go get in your camper when it's 7 degrees?
I couldn't because I couldn't get here.
Well, first, our batteries are going to die no matter what. That cold's going to suck all the power out of it. And we need that power to start our heaters. And then we've all I know on my Airstream, I have 2 30-pound tanks. Most trailers have 5-pounders. They're not that big. You can blow through that in a couple hours with a heater in freezing weather. So you've just completely depleted a fuel source to cook with.
And another thing that you and I talked about before we recorded is you get below a certain point, and number one, those propane tanks become less efficient, especially if they're low, and the regulator will flat out freeze.
Which mine did.
Won't pass the propane anyways.
Yeah, and it happened. I had a propane tank on my vintage trailer that was fine because air was circulating. But the other one, because I'd been cooking on it, was sitting on the cement floor of my uninsulated barn, and it froze up, and there was nothing I could do. But I mean, that was 5 pounds of propane that was just sitting there and couldn't use it. There was nothing I could do.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if you had some extra hand warmers or foot warmers, if you could cracked one of those and set it on top of the regulator, if that would have been just enough.
I don't want to go through it again to find out.
Okay.
Well, that would be, those are always good to have in your camping gear.
Right.
And I was totally using
hand
them.
warmers. Yeah.
Yep.
Flashlights. I have 15,000 at my house.
Did you know you had them before this? Because I was like digging things out and like flashlight here, flashlight there, flashlight everywhere.
No, every drawer in my house has at least one flashlight.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
We have some. But,
flashlights?
But Amazon's bringing me a lot more.
There you go.
We have flashlights everywhere, but some of them are almost as old as I am. And they're not these bright flashlights that you get now.
Right.
And so they're
like
really
the dim yellow lights.
yellow. And I'm like, okay, well, this would get me to the bathroom maybe in a really dark campground.
Because we can't use our cell phone lights because we have no power and there's not a way to charge our cell phone. So you don't want to use.
I am not wasting my battery power on a flashlight.
Right.
No way, Jose.
That's right. So I don't know. New bright LED flashlights are
well,
the
what
ticket.
was that one that was here when we were sitting out there and we were talking about it? You sell one. That's
The
Nebo.
We sell all kinds of cool
that
flashlights.
Saved me when I didn't realize that it was time to start cooking.
And the one that has a power bank built in?
That one.
Yeah.
And that was the one that I would take outside if I was grilling something because it totally illuminated the entire area.
It's like 120 degree of the exact same even lighting.
It was great. I mean, it totally covered my grill and the table next to it. So I knew what I was
It's
cooking.
magnetic. So if you have something nearby, you could position it any way you wanted to.
So thank you for that sale.
Well, really good flashlights, I think, is something that you should have in your camper and in your house instead of the cheap ones.
Yes.
Did you find any of those flashlights, the old ones, when you found them? You checked the batteries; they're all corroded and they didn't work.
Oh, absolutely. And a million of those little teeny tiny ones that are kind of giveaways.
Yeah, the cheapos. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, it kind of lights up, but then you're like, this is not helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, why do I even fill up a drawer with this?
My husband was one of those. I mean, he was in the military and he was an EMT, so he had a lot of stuff. Every 6 months, when he had to change all of the batteries and the smoke detectors in the house, he'd grab every single flashlight, dump all those batteries, and put like that was that
was the
happened.
routine.
That was the routine, and
Yep.
you know, I've got to remember that's my routine now. So I've got to remember that and have that going. Of you need to have batteries to have a flashlight because they're gonna go out.
You know, something that we talked about last week, so I won't really dive in too much, but some form of water filtration is good to have on hand in your camping gear, but it sure would have helped us as well.
I used my Brita water filter because I would be boiling the water, you know, because we just got lifted in my area, and I would boil it at night after I'd cooked dinner. It would cool down. In the morning, I'd pour it through the Brita filter, and then I'd fill this big camping dispenser that I had with water, and that was what I was doing.
Sure.
Handling it that way.
Brita or the Life Straws or any of those products like that. Just good to have on hand.
Well, like we talked about last week, I want a Berkey more than ever now. Because it's so easy. We could have shoveled snow in the top of it and had a gallon of drinking water.
You could have.
Super easy. Super easy. And it takes out all the impurities. A lot more. I mean, boiling it kills the bacteria and viruses. And then you can put it through Brita, which is going to take any chlorine or really basic big stuff out of it.
I just wanted the little floaty bits out.
Yeah.
Like that.
The pieces out.
I needed the little floaty bits out.
I don't know. It sure made me think about that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We mentioned power banks. I had some charged power banks and they kept my phones going the whole time. And then I got one for Christmas from Brent over in the sales office that had a little solar charger built into it. So it charged up in the sun when there was sunlight. I
had that Duracell Power Pro pack. It looks, I mean, it's almost like it's the size of like two women's purses put together, and it's got jumper cables on it. It's got a light. You can plug in USBs to it, and it's solar, but it also has a cord. If there's power, you can plug it into it and it'll charge the battery.
Right.
So it's just a giant battery.
It is. It's a giant
with hookups.
Right. So I was able to hook up my very small little heater in it upstairs in my kids' bedroom because I moved them into one bedroom to conserve and just keep them in there because two stinky bodies are better in one room than two rooms to me.
And also body heat. Body heat. You have the little bitty heater running.
Right.
You're just doing
so that was going there. But then when it went down, if it wasn't a sunny day here, if it was a cloudy day, forget it. It wouldn't charge back up again. So, that's where extra pieces of equipment, like generators that would actually roll over, not like mine did.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that here when we get to the generators because it's on the list. What about candles? Did y'all pull out candles?
Yep.
Yeah, I had fun with my kids and candles up in the bathroom because that's where I keep like the giant
Did you stick their fingers in the wax? Did you let them do that?
But I should have.
You should have.
Okay, explain this to me because I don't get it and I've never done it.
What do you mean? You've never stuck your finger in hot wax and then let it like
you peel
dry
it
around
off
your
and then
finger
you look at your
and then you
fingerprint
peel it
like
off?
it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the
Crisco candle.
Yes.
Oh,
no.
Like keep telling and I'll talk about that one.
We just lit candle like all the tea lights and it was just really fun to like show them like, okay, let's go into this closet and shut the door and it's really, really dark. And then I would light the candle. I'd be like, see, and so now you can see. And so then we talked about when we went to those caves, like, so remember when we went in the cave, this is how people saw because there was no lights down there. And, my kids are like, oh, this is so cool. But I don't really think
let's do shadow puppets.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out.
So that was fun.
Now, Kate, you had a warning on the candle topic.
I made the mistake. Well, I didn't make the mistake, but it ended up being a mistake.
The first step is to admit it.
Yeah, I know. So I'm doing it. I had been given a bunch of candles from Bath and Body Works for Christmas presents, like in these gift baskets and everything. And I'm not a candle person in my house. I've never really have been. So they were just kind of like, all right, just tuck it away in case if the power ever goes out, you can have it. However, those were quite fragrant.
Yeah.
And at one point in time, you develop a very bad headache. You're very cold anyways, so the headache is just getting more intense. But just like Clint and I were saying, well, maybe if it was a citrus one, you might start craving some oranges, and then you might start craving something else. Like there's those little hints of scent, and it can bring on hunger.
Yeah.
It can do that. But I mean, we noticed that smell was just in our, I mean, like there was a berry one, there was a citrus one,
Yeah,
there was a
especially when
clean
you
linen one, and it was
mix
like,
them all.
like, oh
And
God.
So in one sense, it's overwhelming and causing you just maybe illness problems. Another sense, it might be driving your hunger when you're trying to conserve food resources.
right.
Oh yeah, you put
Yeah.
a sugar cookie candle
Right.
going,
You're
and
in trouble.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Right.
Instantly.
I guarantee you,
Instantly.
someone in my neighborhood burned a chocolate smelling candle, and there's no more chocolate in my house. It's all my fault.
Right. Right. I totally. So, I mean, like, I would say if you were going to invest in something, you need to make certain that they are unscented candles, because it was nuts. And I had to have the candles on because I needed the light for a couple more hours. And it was, oh my gosh, am I going to open up the window when it's 2 degrees outside just to get this smell out? No.
And I don't know
save the heat.
Yeah, and I don't know the details, but I know that standard candle wax, when you burn it, puts something in the air that's
Absolutely.
really
Yes.
not good for you.
Sure.
So that's why people always recommend soy candles,
Yes.
because they don't fill the air with some type of toxic leftover that really makes you feel
It's almost
bad
like
and can give you a
creosote in a
headache.
way that gets left like from
Yeah.
a barbecue. It's like there are microparticles of that are in the air.
It's oil,
and if
airborne oils and stuff.
if everything's closed up for a long time, even a day, and you're burning lots of candles, I mean, wouldn't it be worth getting the soy candles
Right.
that are unscented? And soy's supposed to burn a long time, right?
It does. And then there were a lot of people who were caught off guard who didn't have candles. And one tried and true, I have been doing it for years, and I have a couple backup in my camper. I get the small little pint mason jars with the lids. I fill it with Crisco, and then I take a birthday candle and I shove it down the center of it with just a little bit of the wick sticking out, and I light it. That will burn for like 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
So that's something that you can make at your home and have it ready to roll if you ever need that. And my suggestion is go buy the ball ones. They are very heat, like they can handle heat. They can also handle cold.
Yeah.
You know, they won't crack. And they come in a really great cardboard box with a great, plastic seal over it. Just slit it down the middle, pull each one out, fill them, do it, and put them right back into that container, and then put it into like a tote or something in your home or in
Right.
your trailer. And then you've got light. It's right there for you. And as it burns down, that flame is down inside. So you don't have to worry about a flame that's jumping up the top of a candle or anything like that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. What about Crisco though? Won't it go bad if it's in there for a year and
Yeah.
you don't burn them?
You can put it in the freezer.
Well, is it still going to do the job of
Yes.
the candle job, even if it's rancid?
It will, because it's an oil still, and that oil will burn. But if you want to preserve it, if you want, you can put it in your refrigerator or in your freezer. Like I keep a lot of Crisco in my refrigerator for whenever I'm making biscuits, so it's always cold. I don't have to worry about it. And that can stay in there for a year.
So I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. This circling back. Don't let it be. Use Crisco. Don't use bacon grease, because you will once again be hungry.
And you will have a fire.
Yes.
A big fire on your hand if you use fat dripping.
Too warm,
kind
too
of things.
fast.
Right. Because like I almost ran out of fire starters for my barbecue, but I remembered, oh, wait, I hold my bacon grease in the refrigerator that is now totally thawing. But I got that out and kind of spread it on a piece of oak wood, and it lit right
Heck
up
yeah.
for me. So it was perfect.
Heck yeah.
Made me a little bit more hungry though.
And if you just want to go I got a little bit of coin in my pocket and whatever, you can buy, survival candles or whatever, and they'll last. We have one at my house. It's 100-hour candle.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's fantastic, and it's.
Is it a
not big.
special kind of wax? How do they do
I
that?
have no idea, but
We don't know.
I bought it.
If you put the word survival on it,
That's right. Any prepper will
I will
do.
pay twice as much.
Not only that, I don't know. Did any of y'all pull out the old storm lanterns? It has the kerosene in the bottom.
I don't
or
have
anything?
those.
No.
I have had them up until last year when I finally.
Oh, your
did
timing is a
without
little
them.
bit off.
Yeah, except for that oil does go bad. And it was so old in there that it was not liquid anymore, and it had kind of little
Ooh.
chunky stuff in
I
it.
have never seen that before.
I had never
Yeah,
either.
didn't they come from Grandma's house?
Well, they did, but I've refilled them
May
over
have
the
come
years.
from your great grandma's house if it were.
Well, yeah, well, she was, yeah. So, I have actually drained that, and there isn't a good way to get rid of it. And they recommend you just burn it. So I've tried burning that. The lamp had gotten so that the top didn't fit on it very good. It was just not working well.
Okay.
So I got rid of all of that, and now I went out there, and sitting on the desk is the pieces of that lamp just sitting there with no oil.
Mocking you.
Just laughing at me, laughing at me.
Oh no. Okay, so let's go ahead and move ahead. In light of those filters, I actually put down a bullet point for coffee filters
Yes.
Why?
because you can filter water just straight up with those
You
things.
can make your own coffee pods out of those. You can make your own tea
Yeah.
bags if you have loose tea. You can obviously filter and stuff like that. You can use them to wash.
They take up almost no
they
space.
take up almost no
They're
space.
true.
really cheap.
That's true.
And so we were using coffee filters exactly for that, particularly for water, straining out
When
sediment and
parents
whatnot.
run out of baby wipes to clean your child, you can use coffee filters. It's another thing that, it's, you start thinking outside the box.
That's what I did. I had Everett and I used coffee filters and bacon grease.
There you go. He smelled good.
Yes, he did. He's adorable.
Little pudding.
Slippery little guy.
Always. The next thing that I had on my list is, and keep these things charged, but walkie-talkies. How
That
many
was
times?
genius when you said that.
I never thought of that.
I mean,
never thought
And
of that.
I know that we played with these like crazy growing up and whatnot, but they kind of didn't do anything for me for years. But they're fantastic in this respect because our phone stopped working. Like I had trouble making phone calls or receiving phone calls. I could not get texts
Me
for the
too.
most part.
Yeah.
Data wouldn't let me check the weather, nothing. So just walking around the house to check on things, my wife didn't know if I slipped and fell. Yeah. And yeah, you're wearing a knee brace today because of a slip and fall. We would check on our neighbors, but someone was at home with the kids and the cell phones were not working.
Yeah.
And I went and helped a 90-year-old neighbor across the street get snow off of his driveway. Walkie-talkie.
My kids had no idea that I was on the ground out at our barn for like 20 minutes. I seriously thought I had broken my leg. But if I would have had a walkie-talkie with me and they would have had the other one, they would have known that I got hurt. And I mean, it would have helped and it would have been a lot better. But yeah, slip and falls in this kind of what, you cannot go outside alone. I mean, I just went to go grab the gallon of milk. Like that's all. I went out there and just ate it. And now I've got to have knee surgery because of it. So like I'm not happy.
That is not something that you ever expect, though. We always expect our cell phones to work.
Right.
I would never have thought that we couldn't get data. We couldn't get phone calls to go through.
But now we know.
Internet's down like forever. Cell towers are not working. That was really what sent me to the edge of, okay, guys,
Yeah, we're
this
pioneers
is serious.
now. Yeah.
That's right.
When
this
you
is
couldn't
a
get
whole
news.
nother level.
Yeah, I was
Couldn't get
Yeah.
news.
exactly. Couldn't check the weather. I was pretty certain I was going to die of dysentery.
Oregon Trail.
That's right.
Right? In the past with everybody and
That's
the broken
right.
wheel.
It was-
I'm with you on that
I was
one. My kids
concerned.
were playing that video game during this. I'm like, what are you doing?
You people are sick.
Get that off.
Well, we had electricity, so we had television, but you couldn't get channels.
Oh, because of the satellites were all iced
Satellites
over.
were down.
And like
Yeah.
I'm on an internet tower to where my internet is. Well, we couldn't get it because there was so much ice all over the dish to do, like we couldn't get TV because of
Yep.
that. So
Yep, and then who knows what that satellite looks like on our roof. So
yeah.
So
anyway, yeah,
in light of us
crazy.
not being able to get data to check the weather radios.
Yeah.
I have one of these in my
I
kit,
don't.
and it's a little hand crank little thing, and it charges the battery on the side. Because that was, besides not being able to check in with my family and friends who were dealing with this because of data would not allow the weather apps
To work.
to work. Weather radio.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you have a weather radio, don't you?
No.
No, I thought you did at one time.
Nope.
No, I don't know. I dreamed it.
I don't really know what a weather radio is. So if I have one, maybe I just don't know what it is.
Maybe I'm obviously thinking of
We'll
someone
find
else.
one to put in the show notes for you.
They're pretty cool. They're just little boxes and you just crank it up to give it a little power and it's always on. It always works.
Tuned to a frequency that always is like always weather.
It's just
Probably
constant
something
weather.
Mark had.
It sounds like a computer reading it
Right.
to you, but at least you know what's
Yeah.
coming. So weather radio, absolutely.
Yep.
You know, that's something that every trailer ought to have.
I think so.
They don't take up that much space. And it's and there's just, we all ought to
I
have a
want to
weather
pack
radio.
more stuff.
I know.
I will now. Trust me. I'm like making the next Amazon list that's going like, okay, I need this.
Isn't
I need
that
this,
so
and I
funny
need
how
this.
like we don't prepare until like you have to go through something in order to prepare
Yeah.
for it.
Right?
Like
Very human. Yeah.
yeah, we are very human. Like I will always remember the story of my sister getting a removable like radio stereo in your car. Remember when you
remember
had to
those.
remove that because hers got stolen. And I remember being younger and thinking like, well, that's just silly. Well, what are the odds of it getting stolen again? You didn't do that until it got stolen. Why didn't you do that before it got stolen?
was such
And
a
she was
thing.
like, because you don't think about it until it happens. And then once it happens, then you're like, well, I don't want this to happen again. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's just so funny. Why
You know-
can't we just be ready the first time?
Kate, you actually have a list that you brought in with you, and I'm just trampling all over
This
you.
is everything that I use because when this started to ease up and we got some communication back, you and I were talking like, oh, we've
Yeah.
got to create like what list are you using? What are you doing? But for me, since I am a cook, those Coleman outdoor stoves, the Camp Chef ones,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
oven with the 2 burners on top, those work on the green bottles, like the Coleman green bottles. And they also have the adapter for your big propane tank. Those are a must. You must have one of those in your camp kit that will also work in rolling your house. But since
and have fuel.
have the fuel. And this is because I wasn't cooking and teaching classes this past year, I didn't have as many of those green bottles. So that was a moment because when I couldn't charge that power pack to turn on a heater upstairs in my kids' room, I was using a buddy heater.
Yes.
But that still needs a Coleman.
It
thing. So I
does.
mean, it was like an hour on, 4 hours off. An hour on. I regimented of how it went. But in the catering world, think about whenever you go to a buffet. Think about breakfast and those omelet bars. Those little bitty stoves that each one of those chefs are cooking on. You can buy them on Amazon. They're inexpensive. They're about $20.
Buy them at H-E-B.
Right, if you can find one.
Well, not right now.
Yeah,
Right.
not now.
And they take butane canisters. It looks like a hairspray canister. Get one of those. It will save you. But the trick with those is you never cook your food on high on those because it's burning a lot of fuel.
Okay.
Keep it at the medium low. It'll just be better. You'll save your butane that
Sure.
way. But that's important. Making certain that your propane tanks are full. Not on a frozen ground. And then, the one thing that I really have is I have a stockpile of hardwood for my smokers, for my grills and everything. That everybody should have a barbecue of some kind that takes a fuel source, charcoal or hardwood, because it can work as an outdoor oven. And and I'm even talking like the little bitty tiny, like 18-inch Weber. That's fun. I was
Right.
using that one more than my big 32-inch because I didn't have to put as much fuel in
Right,
there,
right.
and one pot could go over it, and it would
It fit the situation better.
Fit the exact situation perfectly. So invest in one of those, and make certain that you always have a bag of charcoal and some hardwood with you.
Yeah.
It's really important, even if it's just a bag of chunks.
Yeah,
that'll
I was-
burn, and it'll get nice and hot for you. Where you can cook food, you can boil water, you can do all of that.
I was eyeing my mom's antique furniture.
Oh, God.
Just hack it up, and I don't want to deal with that in a few years anyways.
Oh my gosh! And
That's hardwood.
You're so funny.
That is hardwood.
You're so funny. But it's like empty 5-gallon buckets. Those are important because
Yes,
all of
buckets.
us had found, whatever container we all had in our garages, we were just throwing stuff on the floor and running
Yeah,
those
right.
containers to catch the dripping ice and snow from
Right.
our roof lines.
Buckets and bowls.
Yep. Buckets and bowls. It's the most important thing. You should have a really big stock pot too. And in a moment's notice, you should know how fast it takes you to sanitize and clean your bathtub. Because if you have to fill it, there's a trick in the food industry. we always add bleach to the rinse water. It's required with health and safety. That's part of it. Some of the automatic dishwashers already do it, but if not, that's what is a bin in there. So I knew that my bathtub held 100 gallons of water when I filled it when we needed to. So every other day I was adding 2 teaspoons of bleach to that water, mixing it around, letting it sit for that 30 to 45 minutes. And then it was fine to drink, eat, cook with, like, it was fine, but you have to keep that up. You can't just keep water in a container. Bacteria is going to grow. So, you always need to have bleach, and you need to know what the ratios are.
You got to know that ratio.
Very important.
We talked about that.
Otherwise, you'll clean yourself too.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Inside out.
Yes, you will.
When did we talk about that? Was that Friday Noon Live?
It may have been. I don't
No,
know.
that was our last podcast when we talked about water purification.
Yeah.
Oh,
It all
It's really
goes together.
important to do that and not forget that. I think that for food safety at home, if this happens, if you have a freezer that's full of food, you also need to have ice packs in between that food. So just in case when the power goes down, you have ice packs that are also trying to keep everything cold. So
Right.
you have like a little bit of an insurance policy.
Yeah, margin of error there.
Right. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, the power still isn't back. Or it was the come on for an hour, off for 4 hours, on for an hour, off for 4 hours. Because there was the rolling blackouts that we had too. And some of us just never came back on. So I was like, if you still have condiments and your refrigerator is cool, go get bowls and go scoop the ice and scoop the snow and just put it in your refrigerator. So you have that in there. It's cold. You can start packing it into your freezers as it's there. That was a great thing.
It's always easier to maintain cold if you want cold, or to
Yes.
maintain heat if you want heat, if you've already got it there.
Right.
So it's the same thing with the refrigerator. A stocked refrigerator will stay cold longer.
Yes, it will.
In a power outage.
Just like in camping, cool down your food first,
Right.
then into the refrigerator. Your refrigerator will get cooler first. Like that's just how it rolls. So, doing that. And then I ended up pulling a lot of the everyday stuff that I would be using to cook with. And that went out on the island. Like it was a prep counter. So I didn't have to go digging through things. A lot of food came out of the pantry and went onto the counters and stuff. But,
Yeah.
ice blocks are important and y'all should have them.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. I'm going to flip over here. Some tools that I either went straight for in this event or wanted. Shovels. Shovels are better for getting snow into buckets and bins than hands.
Yes.
This I learned.
yes.
That's where the hand warmers come in.
Yes. And kids like shovels too. They're better. They're more efficient than their little hands.
Yes.
So, shovels, saws, things were breaking
Very much
and
so.
falling on houses and fences and whatnot. Hammers for various things. But one of the things was there were places where ice did not need to be, and I wanted to break ice off of.
Yeah.
For safety's sake or for pipe's sake. Wrenches and pliers, same sort of thing. We needed to make sure some things kept moving. Valves, spigots, and things like that. Buckets is here. Rope, paracord. That's one of those things that came up just here and there. It helped you to tie covers down, tarps or whatever if you needed to. It helped you to hang stuff up inside your house to dry. Because
It
we
also
couldn't dry
helped to
things.
hang a flashlight. Like
Yes.
we were hanging flashlights with. I mean, I was busting into my husband's old military kit
Yeah.
from years ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
and at one point I actually saw there were MREs sitting in there, and
Mm-hmm.
I went, I wonder what the expiration date is on those things. And I looked, I was like, wow, we're still within the time zone.
That's
I was
right.
just like, I don't know if I can do
They
that.
never expire. Haven't you seen that guy on YouTube who eats MREs from like
I was like,
This-
this is
Gross.
going to be
the
the
50s? Yeah.
This is just before we enter the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Before I bust into
That's
this
right.
stuff. Like,
That's
no,
right. We'll grab the MREs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say, once again, jumping outside of tools into clothing, my rubber boots.
Yes.
I love them. Like when I wear them out, I'm going to bronze them.
They really saved my feet
not
when
gonna
the
do that.
like the puddles that when we started walking through, and just like it was easier.
See, Simone, of course, she always wears her rubber boots, and she was the one that couldn't walk on the ice because rubber boots are not good for walking on ice.
Yeah, they're great for snow.
But
But so I actually have in my wish list on Amazon is some of those cleats that you can strap onto your shoes because of how much ice we had. They're not that expensive. I'm going to have some cleats.
I didn't
in my
know that
kit.
was a thing. That's cool.
Yeah, they're like
strap-on.
crampons, kind of like the ones that like the mountain climbers use.
Yeah,
that you can,
they
like,
look
do
something like that. They either strap on or they have like a spring that just goes over your toe and around your heel.
That would have saved me from falling.
All it is cleats that go onto any shoe or boot. And
cool.
They're in my list now. Certainly gloves and things like that. Generators. I'm probably getting a generator pretty soon. And here I was just wanting one to use with my trailer. I don't just want a generator now. It's going to happen.
Well, how about the other side when you have them, but they won't start?
What did you do, Kate? What did you do? Did you talk bad to them? They didn't want to start for you?
At one point, man, I was talking bad to them.
That was after they wouldn't
That was
start.
after they wouldn't. I have 2 Yamaha EF2000s.
Which are great generators.
They're great because we can pigtail them together, join them together, piggyback them. That's the word. I'm like, I don't have any words. But we could power our 30 amp trailer, run the AC, everything.
Absolutely.
It was great. However, though, I don't remember when my husband serviced them last. So with some neighbors' help, we realized, okay, it's the spark plug. It's not the oil. You have full fuel, and reminding everybody that if you have fuel cans, you need to put stabilizer in that because that is a very important thing.
For small engines, standard fuel out of the pump without a stabilizer that deals with the ethanol, that stuff's bad for small engines in particular.
Horrible.
Yes.
Horrible.
No idea
So-
what you guys are talking about.
Putting like the reason that lawnmowers fail.
Nowadays is because of the ethanol and the fuel that we're using now. It has corn in it, and they don't like corn.
No.
It
So
goes
you put
bad.
in this,
It
you
goes
put in this
bad after a
product
while.
and it breaks that part down.
So
So
you
it
have to
doesn't
put
come up
gas and other stuff into it?
stabilizer. Yep.
For small
in
engines.
your gas cans and things.
Unless you can find a place, and they're rare, but they're out there that has ethanol-free gasoline.
Or if you go get jet fuel.
Or if you
Right?
yeah. If you go to the airport, they'll sell it to you.
I'll just pay someone to mow my lawn. It's fine.
Right. Well, so I mean, with mine, I had 2 generators. I had 20 gallons of fuel in my barn, and I wouldn't roll over. But I don't have with that generator. Every 6 months, you need to turn them on, service them. Every 100 hours that they run, you need to empty the oil, clean the air filter, drain the fuel if you
Check
can.
that spark plug.
Check the spark plug, and then clean off the spark arrestor in the back of it.
It's a good time to replace that air filter.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, I couldn't get them rolled over. I mean, tears of frustration that these things
because they
would
could have
not-
saved you.
They could have I could have plugged one into the refrigerator, and I could have, and to piggyback on that generator, getting an extension cord that has the multiple sockets on the top of it. So if you got your generator going, every single room could pretty much have, a heat source in it or a light source in it, or you could be charging your cell phones or things like that. That was something. I mean, I had everything. I had the extension cord. I had all the stuff. Couldn't get them rolled over.
Right. And it's not for not having the stuff. And this is a point for anything that you're going to add to your kit for your RV that could save you at your house. If you have the stuff, that does not make you a master of your stuff. You have to maintain it.
Yes.
Any of it. Like we talked about with the flashlights. I have flashlights. Some of them are completely useless because I left old batteries in them and they corroded. And even new batteries won't bring that flashlight back.
And generators feel really scary to a lot of people. Like Lindsay is like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm good.
But generators, there's nothing hard about them.
No.
Nothing at all. You just put fuel in them. It's a little bottle of stabilizer. You just put, I don't know, a tablespoon in. It's
Yeah,
not a
it's
lot.
nothing.
Just a few drips in there so that the gas doesn't get old. Then it's good to go.
And if you're like, I don't want to think about it and I'm okay with paying the convenience fee, then they have premixed fuel.
They do.
At auto parts stores, at Home Depots and Lowe's.
Yeah.
There's premixed. So if you're like, I don't want to think about it, I'm okay with the convenience fee, have some of that on hand.
Yeah. It's just nothing that we think about when winter's coming on. Hey, I got to get my generator serviced so it's ready in case I get a cold snap.
Certainly not here. We're not
all
used to
of these
this.
things, we just don't plan for winter storms. But I bet it's kind of like people who were born years ago and lived through the Depression. They never got over the idea that they could be without again.
Well, yeah, like my grandparents. I mean, when you clean out the house after they pass and whatever, you find a drawer full of just sheets of aluminum foil, like you're talking about earlier. They washed it, flattened it back out, put it in a drawer to reuse sheets of aluminum foil.
Oh, yeah.
My grandma always had saved the twisty ties.
Yes.
And the milk caps.
Yeah.
And I remember asking you at one point, like, what would you possibly do with milk caps? And
You could
were
turn
like,
them in.
And you were like, it doesn't matter. They're there.
It's what they did.
Yeah.
You save everything. Yeah, my aunt used to reuse Kleenex.
Oh.
And when I finally, I was a young child and she was, I think, my great aunt, and it was just so far past horrifying to me. And she would keep them tucked in her sweater sleeve.
Right.
And when I asked my mother, what the heck is she doing? She said, just leave her alone.
It's her thing.
She can't stand to waste anything. And she opened them up and laid them out to dry on her nightstand. And that's when I knew how crazy this could get.
Right.
And you know what? It's crazy. It's crazy. So y'all don't get that far over the edge.
Well, I don't think what we went through is comparable to the
You know
Great
what?
Depression.
I do not.
I don't
do
think
not.
the Great Depression, but I will say at one point in time, there were many people who could not melt snow to flush their toilets because the lines froze too.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah.
you have kids, you have you, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And it's that trash bag and kitty litter. All campers know this kind of a thing. And you should have a 25-pound box of kitty litter because guess what? Even if your truck or your car got stuck in the snow, you can take that and put it around the tires just to get some traction to get us out, things like that. And you just got to do what you got to do. But that is one way of saving everybody's health and wellness is by knowing what to do.
Right.
And kitty litter is good for a million things.
Yeah.
So probably everybody should have a bag of kitty litter,
Yeah.
but we don't. Do you? Oh, you've got a
I
cat.
have a cat.
And you have a cat.
I have a
you
cat.
have a cat. We don't have a cat, but I mean,
Maybe you should get
it's
one.
Yeah. People keep leaving them, but we force them to take them away. But a bag of kitty litter is so useful.
Yep.
So this sounds like a ton of stuff, but it would fit in a very small space in the corner of your garage and probably fill 2 tubs, and you would be ready to fly for your winter,
Catastrophe.
yes, the winter rescue tubs. Can we make a list and put all of this in the show notes
Sure.
with links?
Yeah,
and we'll give you our must-have list because we've done a little rambling here.
Right. And I saw a bullet point, and just passing quickly, I saw a bullet point on your list, Kate, was well-prepared first aid kit. Yes, have that.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Yes.
those have expiring components. Check on that.
Right.
Or have a 2-year-old. You'll go right through all the Band-Aids.
Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Band-Aids.
Well, we all lived through it, and I think we are smarter for it.
Yeah. I tell you what,
I learned a lot.
next fall, I'm stocking up for the next year's camping season, because if I prep for that,
Then you're good to go at
great.
your house.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, everybody ought to have a generator, and we are all experienced campers. We know that, but we didn't have them, did we? Except for Kate, and hers didn't run.
And
Well,
mine didn't run.
Yeah.
The one I had in my garage, I brought back to Princess Craft the day before.
That's true. Oh, yes. You did have
And then I
one that
couldn't
you
come back and get it.
returned.
Oh, see, so we were in the same
That's
boat.
hilarious.
We have 'em, we just didn't use 'em.
The things we have learned. Take care of ourselves. And we have so many employees here in the same boat.
Yes.
What they would have done for a generator.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cold.
And then we couldn't get to them.
Yeah.
And then
we
when
couldn't-
you could, they were gone.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Fast.
have a propane filling station here,
Yeah.
but nobody could get here.
I kept thinking, all these people with no heat, we could just, get all these trailers going, maybe put some of them inside. We couldn't get here, and they couldn't get here. How do we get
Yeah.
them here?
Right.
It was man, tough
Creative.
times, and here we are.
We all got creative.
We did.
All right. Well, we were just signaled by one of my battery-powered lights going out that this is the time to end the show. We would like once again to thank you for listening and joining us, and we would like to thank you ahead of time for going over and checking out our sponsor, Truck Camper Magazine. Not only do they have all the information, all the fun stories and the stuff, but also they have stories of people who camp in the Arctic Circle with a truck camper. Seems like that would be appropriate for learning how to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, they have so many cool stories. And the best part, it's free. You just sign up for their magazine. It comes to you in your email. It doesn't cost a thing. You get to see all these cool adventures.
Those stories are the best.
They really are. So truckcampermagazine.com. Check it out.
Yep. And again, our show notes are at rvsmalltalk.com. Join us on the community page on Facebook. That's RV Small Talk Community Group. We are trying to ramp things up. We have a YouTube channel and whatnot. So join us wherever and share your adventures, share your pictures, your stories, what you survived, how you survived. I want to know it all. So bring it on. RV Small Talk on Facebook Community Group.
And like we mentioned, if you want to go on to Apple Podcast and give us a rating, 5 stars would be appreciated if you like the podcast, but it really helps us to reach more people. We appreciate you. 5-star rating plus a comment. We appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.